Hey Lainey, welcome to Ali Cookies.
Hi, Shilpi. Glad to be here.
Thanks for talking to us about the final rule under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, issued on digital accessibility by Department of Justice. So this is going to be a rapid fire session between the two of us. Let's have some fun.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Fabulous. So, the first question for you. Does the issuance of the final rule make you hopeful or disheartened?
That is a great question. I'm going to go with 70% hopeful, 30% disheartened.
Okay, interesting. So now, if I'm the CEO of a tech company selling to federal or state agencies, should I ignore or take this rule seriously?
I would say you better take it seriously. You will ignore at your peril. Now, remember, the rule only applies to state and local governments. For federal contractors, it's Section 508.
Brilliant. That is a great bit of information for people to understand. So now, what technologies does the rule apply to?
The rule is about web content and mobile apps. So, websites and mobile apps. And I do want to say there's a lot of definitions in this rule. So, I really encourage people to look at the Department of Justice fact sheet about the rule. And they talk about what is web content, basically everything, the video and the forms and the platforms and also the documents. They have a term about the documents. They're including word process documents, presentation documents like PowerPoint. So there's a lot, but the bottom line is websites and mobile apps.
Interesting. So now, what is the standard that will be required to comply to?
The standard is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG 2.1 at the AA level.
And who has to comply with this rule?
This rule is directed to state and local governments in the United States. So that's any part of a state or local government. It doesn't just mean the state of Massachusetts, but it means the Parks Department and the public school system and the higher ed, the universities, the voting systems, anything that a state or local government offers to the public is covered by this rule.
So that's quite a broad, spectrum of organizations that have to comply. So let's move on to what is the proposed timeline to comply with this rule?
Yeah, before we get to that real quick, I said state and local. So it's not just the state of Massachusetts, it's the cities in Massachusetts and the counties in Massachusetts and every other state in the United States. So yeah, it has a broad scope. The time frame, is that what you asked? The timeline?
Yes, very much. The proposed timeline to comply.
Yes. I'd say first off, it's not proposed. This is a final rule that is required. So we did have a whole system for a proposed rule and public comment. This is now the final. It's required. And they've divided into two parts. If you're a small organization in a state and local government under 50,000 in your population, you have until April 24, 2027. If you're larger than 50,000, you have till April 24, 2026. And it's always tied to April 24 because that's the date the rule became final.
So everybody needs to get their act together and get going to make this happen. So are there any
Absolutely.
totally? So are there any exceptions to WCAG 2.1 level AA requirements?
There are exceptions in the rule, but it's really important, again, to read them carefully. I just pulled out a couple to share with your audience, and it's almost like every exception has its own exception. So, for example, there is an exception for what they call pre-existing conventional electronic documents. That would be posted Word files, PDF, a PowerPoint. Pre-existing means were they on the website before those dates we just talked about? So basically, it's not asking a state or local government to go back to things that were posted a long time ago and no longer used. The exception says you don't have to do it for pre-existing conventional electronic documents unless they're currently used to apply for, gain access, or participate in the service and programs. So you might have an old PDF, but you're still using it for people to ask questions, apply for a job, get a parks reservation. So the exception wouldn't apply there. So there are a few exceptions like that, exception for archive material, but I really encourage people to read it. It is a law. It's not that scary if you just sit down. The Justice Department has a great summary. Go there.
And now, Lainey, tell me, if I have a SaaS product and I am selling to the state government, but it is currently WCAG 2.0 compliant, do I need to adhere to WCAG 2.12?
The rule runs to state and local government. And if you are selling, the state and local government should be requiring you to meet this new rule, which is WCAG 2.1 AA. So great. Congratulations for being at 2.0. Got to push a little harder and get to 2.1 by these deadlines.
And, we already have a WCAG 2.2. So what about that?
Well, Shilpi, this is a problem with the law. Technology goes faster than the law does. So this rule does not incorporate WCAG 2.2. There can always be new rules. I don't anticipate that happening. Of course, all of WCAG, it's not just a rule for rule's sake. It's a rule to be more inclusive of disabled people. So yes, the best practice is to follow WCAG 2.2, but this rule is WCAG 2.1.
Now, indirectly, will this nudge technology companies to prioritize web accessibility, uh, according to you?
I said, nudge is like a little softer than I would say. I would say, yes, absolutely. It's critically important that anybody selling, whether you're, a large company, a small company, if you want to do business with a state and local government in the United States, you have to be thinking of these rules. And remember, again, it's not just rules. The idea here is that the public includes disabled people, and the public should not be leaving out disabled people. And that is the why of this rule. And every tech company selling to state and local government, licensing to state and local government should be paying close attention.
Thank you, Lainey. Thank you for joining us on Ali Cookies. Thank you for being a part of this new initiative with Barrier Break. And I think we learned a lot from you today. And I'm as hopeful as you are, 70% hopeful, 30% disheartened. And I hope that everybody in the technology world takes this seriously. But thank you again for doing this with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good luck with the series.